China remains Australia's largest agricultural export market despite trade sanctions. Taiwan says China is bolstering coastline military bases facing the self-ruled island. Suspected Chinese submarine accident, top military officials shirk duty. Southern China hit by landslides and crocodiles, residents trapped in floodwaters. Pope's Ukraine peace envoy heads to China on mission to help return Ukraine children taken to Russia. It's all covered in today's Understand China. China remains Australia's largest agricultural export market despite trade sanctions. For the second consecutive year, the value of Australian agricultural exports has reached a historic high of $80 billion, with winter crops playing a pivotal role in driving an impressive 20% growth in the market. In the 2022 to 2023 financial year, broadacre crop exports, valued at $31 billion, accounted for over one-third of Australia's total exports. The cotton industry also witnessed a remarkable surge, doubling its export earnings to $4.9 billion, a notable increase of $2.7 billion from the previous year. Despite ongoing trade sanctions affecting specific Australian commodities, China continues to maintain its position as the primary export destination for Australian agricultural products. It accounts for roughly 20% of Australia's agricultural exports and remains the top growth market in terms of dollar value for the second consecutive year. Chinese exports, primarily driven by the wheat market, increased by nearly $3 billion in 2022 to 2023. China retained its status as the leading market for Australian crop exports for the second consecutive year, with an impressive 62.5% surge in the value of crop exports, totaling $5.4 billion. Additionally, China remains the most lucrative market for Australian cattle, contributing 22% to the total export value. In 2020, Beijing imposed trade sanctions on a wide range of Australian products, including barley, beef, cotton, lamb, lobsters, timber, and wine. These sanctions were in response to former Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison endorsing an inquiry into the origins of COVID-19, which angered Beijing and led to retaliatory sanctions on Australian exports. Barley tariffs were lifted in 2023 following widespread drought in China, which saw significant crop failure. Despite several ongoing sanctions, Australia still plays a significant role in feeding China. Could exports to China face future threats? China's President Xi Jinping has recently emphasized Beijing's goal of achieving self-sufficiency in food production, potentially impacting Australian agricultural exports to the region. On September 7, during a visit to the flood-ravaged northeast part of the country, a major grain-producing region, she announced to party officials that the country must prioritize food self-sufficiency. Presently, China produces approximately 76% of its own food, down from around 100% in 2000. She stressed, ensuring the country's food security should be placed as the top priority. He urged officials to increase production capacity to ensure that grain production and supply are sufficient to meet regular demand and can serve as a reliable source during extreme circumstances. Prior to the imposition of recent sanctions, China constituted approximately 30% of Australia's export market. Japan and the U.S. continued to hold their positions as the second and third most significant markets for Australian agriculture. China is also the world's largest importer of rice, with 1 million tons coming from India in 2021. Taiwan says China is bolstering coastline military bases facing the self-ruled island. Taiwan's defense ministry said in a report on September 12 that China is continuously bolstering its military bases along the coastline facing the self-ruled island, as Beijing steps up military activities around the territory it claims as its own. Taiwan said it will continue to monitor the Chinese activities around the island and bolster its defenses in response. Earlier on September 12, Taiwan's defense ministry said it had spotted 22 Chinese warplanes and 20 warships near the island over the previous 24 hours, part of military harassment by Beijing, which hasn't ruled out force to reunite the island with the mainland. During a news conference releasing the biennial report, Maj. Gen. Huang Wenqi, the assistant deputy chief with the General Staff for Intelligence of Taiwan's defense ministry, said, "This year, the Chinese Communist Party has aggressively expanded its armaments and continued to build various types of fighter jets and drones. He added, "The information we have received is that all important military bases along the coast are being continuously updated." Huang pointed to 3 military airfields in China's southeastern Fujian province, Longtian, Huiyin and Zhangzhou, that have recently been expanded. The closest one to Taiwan, Longtian, is only 217 kilometers, 135 miles, from the capital, Taipei. Over the past year, Beijing has stepped up military activities around Taiwan, including by sending warships and warplanes on a near-daily basis. The latest dispatch of Chinese warplanes and warships came after the U.S. and Canada sailed warships through the Taiwan Strait in a challenge to Beijing's territorial claims. On September 11, China sailed its own naval formation led by the aircraft carrier Shandong about 70 miles, 110 kilometers, southeast of Taiwan. The vessel was expected to conduct drills simulating aircraft, submarine, warship and land attacks. This was the second time China has deployed the Shandong to the Western Pacific. The carrier, commissioned in 2019, participated in drills around Taiwan in April, shortly after Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen met U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in California. Beijing sees all exchanges between Taiwanese and foreign officials as challenges to its claims over the island. According to Taiwan's Defense Ministry, 13 of the Chinese military aircraft reported on September 12 had crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait, an unofficial demarcation zone between China and Taiwan. Huang said, "The period from July to September this year was the peak period for the Chinese Communist Party's exercises." Suspected Chinese submarine accident, top military officials shirk duty. A Chinese nuclear submarine was suspected to have crashed in the Taiwan Strait at the end of August. Although the Chinese military refused it, the latest news shows top military officials are shirking responsibilities. On August 22, there were unconfirmed reports regarding a crash of a Chinese nuclear submarine Type 093 in the Taiwan Strait, killing the entire crew on board the vessel. This came just days after Beijing launched large-scale military drills around Taiwan, after months of heightened tension between China, Taiwan, and the U.S. At that time, no countries confirmed the accident. According to Apollo News, China's Ministry of National Defense announced at a regular conference on August 31 that the rumors of a submarine accident in the Taiwan Strait were completely false. However, Up Media, a Taiwanese newspaper, pointed out that the Chinese Defense Ministry only denied the location of the incident rather than stating that there were no submarine accidents. In addition, many family members of the ship's officers and soldiers who were originally supposed to return to the base at the end of August and were due to return home on normal leave at the beginning of September have been asking questions, which makes the occurrence of an accident more and more credible. On August 20, the Long March 15, a Type 093 nuclear-powered submarine belonging to the People's Liberation Army's Northern Theater of Operations, departed from its base in Qingdao to conduct an underwater weapons test firing exercise near the Yellow Sea, when malfunctioning munitions exploded in its launcher, causing the submarine to sink. According to estimates, the ship should have had about 100 officers and men on board and all were killed. Moreover, Chinese President Xi Jinping, who is also chairman of the Military Commission, authorized Zhang Youxia, who has not been seen in public for several months, to preside over a conference on the quality of the military's equipment on August 28 and 29. Although the official press release did not list attendees from the Central Military Commission and war zones, the meeting's rare request showed the quality of equipment needed to be improved with an attitude of responsibility for the lives of officers and soldiers. According to Up Media, Wang Dazhong, commander of the Northern Theater Command, is believed to be mainly responsible for the accident. He was promoted in early 2022 and is supposed to be a member of Xi's faction. Citing a source from Beijing, Up Media reported that after the accident, the military internally opened a secret investigation and top military officials are blaming each other to shirk their responsibilities. Some political commissars of the war zone said that the cause was due to improper management and training of the Navy, so Wang Dazhong must bear the greatest responsibility. However, because the Type 093 submarine had many equipment problems in the past, Wang Dazhong tried to link the case with the recent large-scale anti-corruption campaign in the military. He accused the submarine accident of being due to hardware errors or even poor design, and that the General Department of Weapons should be held fully responsible. Southern China hit by landslides and crocodiles, residents trapped in floodwaters. Days of relentless rain from the remnants of former Typhoon Haikui have caused many landslides, and allowed dozens of crocodiles to escape. This trapped thousands of residents in floodwaters and killed at least 7 people in China's south. As reported by Reuters, Typhoon Haikui hit southern China 8 days ago and has since been downgraded to a tropical storm, but unrelenting rain continues to deluge southwestern Guangxi. Incessant storms in the last 3 days in most areas of Yulin City caused 115 landslides that destroyed roads, uprooting trees, inducing floods and leading authorities to issue a warning of emergencies on national and provincial trunk highways. 3 people remain missing and rescue operations are ongoing. Further south near the coast, Beihai City was inundated from widespread downpour. Rescuers were seen treading thigh-deep in waterlogged areas evacuating residents in boats. About 1,360 people were trapped on Tuesday. According to AP News, nearby residents were advised to stay at home after 69 adult crocodiles and 6 juveniles escaped in Maoming, a city near the coast in western Guangdong province. Some have been recaptured, but the operation was difficult because of the depth of a lake they are in. The city's observatory raised its storm warning to the highest in a 4-tier alert system after more than 101 mm, 4 inches, rain poured in a 3-hour period on September 12 morning, and flagged risks of flash floods, geological disasters and waterlogging in urban and rural areas. China Meteorological Administration forecast heavy rains in the south and southeast parts of Guangxi in 2 consecutive days, September 12 and 13, with storms in the southwest. Localized hourly precipitation could hit 70 mm, 2.76 inches, in some areas. The national forecaster also warned relevant departments and people in Guangdong and Guangxi to be alert to any delayed effects of disasters from frequent rainfall in recent days. Pope's Ukraine peace envoy heads to China on mission to help return Ukraine children taken to Russia. The Vatican said on September 12, Pope Francis' Ukraine peace envoy, Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, is heading to China on the 4th leg of a mission that has already brought him to Kiev, Moscow and Washington. As reported by AP News, the main aim of the shuttle diplomacy is to help return Ukrainian children taken to Russia after the invasion. Zuppi, accompanied by an official from the Vatican Secretariat of State, will be in Beijing from September 13 to 15. The Vatican described the visit as a further step in the mission desired by the Pope to support humanitarian initiatives and the search for paths that can bring about a just peace. Francis tapped Zuppi, a veteran of the Catholic Church's peace diplomacy, in May as his envoy, aiming to initiate paths of peace. Over time, Zuppi's mission has concentrated on the humanitarian front and in particular in trying to establish a mechanism to help Ukrainian children who were moved to Russia following the invasion which began in February 2022. The International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant in late March for Russia's Minister for Children's Rights, Maria Lvova-Belova, and Russian President Vladimir Putin, accusing them of abducting children from Ukraine. Russian officials have denied any forced adoptions, saying some Ukrainian children are in foster care. No details of Zuppi's work have emerged, though Francis has said he imagined the Vatican could play a role as it has in some prisoner swaps. Zuppi has met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Lvova-Belova and other top advisors to Putin, and President Joe Biden. Zuppi told the broadcaster of the Italian Bishops' Conference, "The hope is to push and weave the difficult web of peace." Recently, Francis made a strong public overture to China while visiting neighboring Mongolia, again voicing his esteem for the Chinese people and hopes for constructive dialogue on church matters with Beijing. He also has won praise from Russia for recent comments extolling Great Mother Russia, comments that angered Ukraine and its Greek Catholic bishops. Don't forget to comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from Understand China, and thank you for tuning in.